Hi guys, today we are learning how to find the least common multiple of a set of numbers. Let's start with the definition of least common multiple, otherwise known as LCM. The least common multiple is the least or smallest of the common multiples of two or more numbers. There are two primary ways to find the LCM of a set of numbers. First, we'll look at the listing method. We're going to find the least common multiple of 18 and 24 using the listing method. First, we have to list the first 5 multiples of 18 and the first 5 multiples of 24. "18 times 1 is 18. 18 times 2 is 36. 18 times 3 is 54. 18 times 4 is 72. And 18 times 5 is 90. So we've listed the first 5 multiples of 18, and now let's list the first 5 multiples of 24. 24 times 1 is 24. 24 times 2 is 48. 24 times 3 is 72. 24 times 4 is 96. And 24 times 5 is 120. After we've listed the first 5 multiples of both numbers, we look to see if we have a common multiple. If you do not have a common multiple, you need to keep listing multiples until you do. If you do have a common multiple, however, the smallest one that you see is your LCM, or your least common multiple. So I see that 72 is a common multiple of 18 and 24. And I don't see any other numbers that are common, so 72 would be the least common multiple of 18 and 24. Next, let's find the least common multiple of 16 and 24. So first we will list out the first 5 multiples of both numbers. 16 times 1 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. 16 times 3 is 48. 16 times 4 is 64. And 16 times 5 is 80. 24 times 1 is 24. 24 times 2 is 48. 24 times 3 is 72. 24 times 4 is 96. And 24 times 5 is 120. Next, we will highlight or circle any common multiples that we see. I see that 48 is a common multiple of both 16 and 24. It is the only common multiple that I see, so it is my least common multiple because it is the smallest. So the least common multiple is 48. Next, let's find the LCM of 48 and 72. The first thing we'll do is list out our 5 multiples of each number. 48 times 1 is 48. 48 times 2 is 96. 48 times 3 is 144. 48 times 4 is 192. And 48 times 5 is 240. 72 times 1 is 72. 72 times 2 is 144. 72 times 3 is 216. 72 times 4 is 288. And 72 times 5 is 360. Next, we will look for any common multiples. I see that 144 is a common multiple of both numbers. This is the only common multiple I see, so it is my least common multiple. The other way you can find the LCM of a set of numbers is by using the ladder method. This is the same method as when we were solving for the prime factorization of a number, except now there will be 2 numbers inside of the ladder step. So we are going to find the LCM of 24 and 36. So we placed both the numbers inside the first ladder step. And then we need to divide both of those numbers by a prime number. Both numbers can be divided by 2, so we place the 2 on the outside of the ladder step. 24 divided by 2 is 12, written right below 24, and 36 divided by 2 is 18, written right below 36. Now we'll look at 12 and 18 and figure out what prime number can be divided by both of those numbers. Both of those numbers can be divided by 3. So we write the 3 on the outside of the ladder step. 12 divided by 3 is 4, and 18 divided by 3 is 6. Both 4 and 6 can be divided by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So we can highlight both the 2 and the 3, and they are not written inside of a ladder step because they are now prime numbers. So when we have only prime numbers left, when there are no more common factors that we can divide by, we will stop. Notice how these 5 prime numbers written on the outside of the ladder steps form an L. we will multiply all of these numbers together, and when we do, we will find our LCM. So 2 times 3 is 6, times 2 is 12, times 2 is 24, times 3 is 72. The LCM of 24 and 36 is 72. Let's find the LCM using the ladder method. We have 64 and 96. Since both of these numbers are even numbers, I know I can divide them by the prime number 2. On my next ladder step, 64 divided by 2 is 32, and 96 divided by 2 is 48. Both of these numbers can also be divided by 2. So on my next ladder step, 32 divided by 2 is 16, and 48 divided by 2 is 24. Both of my numbers are still even numbers, so again, they can be divided by 2. On my next ladder step, 16 divided by 2 is 8, and 24 divided by 2 is 12. Both of these numbers can be divided by 2. On my next ladder step, 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. They can be divided by 2 again, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Both the 2 and the 3 are prime numbers, so they are not written inside of a ladder step. The next thing I will do is highlight all of my numbers on the outside of the ladder. And they form an L. I will need to multiply all of these numbers together to find my LCM. So I'll write them out. I see 6 2s, and 1 3. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32, times 2 is 64, times 3 is 192. So the LCM of 64 and 96 is 192. Now let's find the LCM using the ladder method of 48 and 72. So I'm going to write both numbers inside of a ladder step. Both of these numbers are even numbers, so they can be divided by 2. On my next ladder step, 48 divided by 2 is 24. I'll write that right below 48. And 72 divided by 2 is 36, written right below 72. Both of these numbers are even numbers, so again, they can be divided by 2. "24 divided by 2 is 12. And 36 divided by 2 is 18. I can divide both 12 and 18 by 3. "12 divided by 3 is 4. And 18 divided by 3 is 6. Both 4 and 6 can be divided by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. Both the 2 and the 3 are prime numbers, so they are not written inside of a ladder step. Next, we'll highlight all of the numbers on the outside of the ladder, including the ones down at the bottom that are not inside of a ladder step. These form a giant L. Let's write out all of those numbers that we see and multiply them together to find the LCM. I see 4 2s, and 2 3s. Two times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 3 is 48, times 3 is 144. So the least common multiple of 48 and 72 is 144. In our last guided practice problem, we will solve for the least common multiple of 12 and 16 using the ladder method. So we'll write both of our numbers inside the ladder step. Both of these numbers can be divided by 2. So inside of the next ladder step, 16 divided by 2 is 8, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. Both 8 and 6 can be divided by 2. So inside of our next ladder step, 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. Three is a prime number, but 4 is still a composite number. So I could divide 4 by 2 to make it smaller. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and then we can bring 3, that prime number, straight down. Now I'm only left with prime numbers outside of my ladder steps, so I can highlight all of the numbers on the outside. They form a giant L, and we can rewrite them and multiply them together to find our LCM. I see 4 2s, and 1 3. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 3 is 48. So the LCM of 16 and 12 is 48. Now you will work on some independent practice on your own. You may use the listing method or the ladder method to solve for the LCM of the sets of numbers.